LR, the liberal redneck here, coming to you from a country full of people who like to bitch about how our government conducts business, but are too self-absorbed to get off of their butts and actually do something about it. Like voting. In 2016, 100 million eligible voters stayed at home rather than participate in the election process. That was almost half of the voting populace. The Russians were counting on that, and they were obviously justified. Their efforts to undermine the U.S. election process would have been for naught if everyone had voted, but they did not. Voting is the only tool ordinary citizens have. But the biggest club in the world is useless if you don't wield it. Once again, the Russians are busy manipulating social media with assaults like the ones that were so successful in 2016. Their goal is to destroy America, and re-electing the worst president in our history would go a long way to that end. House Democrats are doing everything in their power to pass bills making the election secure and also making it easier to vote. The Republican Senate, led by Kentucky racist Moscow Mitch McConnell, is doing everything in their power to prevent voters from going to the polls. They do this because the number of registered Democratic voters is considerably larger than the number of registered Republican voters. The president has a relatively small but entirely rabid base that will definitely be casting their votes on November 3rd, 2020. The only way to overcome their obstructionist efforts is with a truly large voter turnout. Failure to do so could end up with the way Bush 44 got the presidency handed to him by the Supreme Court. And today's court is much more heavily stacked in the Republican favor than it was then. The majority of Americans want a government that addresses their most urgent social needs, like health care and a living wage. That only happens when Democrats control our government. Republicans are more concerned with protecting the rich and feeding the military-industrial complex, so they will keep giving them money for their re-election campaigns. We have the power to make things better for all Americans and not just the 1%, but that power is totally wasted by neglecting your constitutional right to make your voice heard. You can reach me at theliberalredneck@gmail.com. You can visit live with me, the pagan goddess and the progressive Christian, for our weekly wrap-up every Friday at noon Central on blogtalkradio.com/theliberalredneck.